Prime Minister Narendra Modi doubling down on the Agniveer scheme. The general consensus was, with assembly elections in Haryana around the corner, the BJP could pedal back the Agniveer scheme to some extent, given that there could be political consequences and that the opposition is trying to turn this into a big emotive issue in a state which sends a lot of soldiers to the Indian Army. The Prime Minister, though, saying this is a matter of conviction and that we need a younger, leaner, meaner, hungrier army. How is this likely to play out? What's been the experience so far? And what could be the political consequences of doubling down on Agniveer? Joining us on this broadcast, I want to welcome Lieutenant General D.S. Huda, former General Officer Commanding-in-Chief of the Northern Command. Joining us from Chandigarh, we have Lieutenant General D.B. Shetitkar, former Chairperson of the Expert Committee on Defence, former Co-Commander of the 4th Corps. We've got Major General Bishambar Dayal in the studio. He's been Chairperson of ASSOCHAM's National Council of Aerospace and Defence. For political perspective, I have Sanju Verma, National Spokesperson of the BJP, squaring off against her, Ghanshyam Tiwari of the Samajwadi Party. And I'll be taking you through data from the Political Stock Exchange tracker questions on the Agniveer and try and understand how people are perceiving this. And Yashwant Deshmukh is at hand. He's polling, remember, in the United States at this moment. And lots of complexities and interesting things happening there with Kamala Harris, but we'll deal with that separately. So let's get started. I want to first look at how people perceive what the Prime Minister said. And I'll get into the PSC questions because he's not backing down. General Shetitkar, one expectation was that given that there's been a pushback, it seems to have some resonance on the ground in states where there are lots of soldiers in the Indian Army, that the Prime Minister might want to dilute the scheme. He's actually doubling down, saying that this is the right thing to do. It's happening internationally. We get a younger, leaner army. Given how warfare is changing, that is the need of the hour. And he says, this is not about the cost this will have or how popular or unpopular this is. It's about doing the right thing. What did you make of the Prime Minister's very hard-hitting comments on Agniveer and the manner in which he's backed this scheme?
Thank you for asking me this question, Mr. Rahul, and being on your show. I would request, I will not be speaking about the political understanding, neither for any party nor for anything. I'll speak purely from the national defense point of view and the national interest point of view. When we were holding this committee, of which I was the chairman, we had recommended to the government that you require an army which is of a younger age. And that too, when a soldier comes and joins, and if he has to serve for 20 years, then his utility in the high altitude mountains, in counterinsurgency operations, in Chinese border or the Pakistan border comes down. So therefore, and then the second is that naturally, the nation has to look after them thereafter. So one of the recommendation, very important recommendation, which was agreed to, was that we have with us the young generation joining as a soldier, as we are having as the young officers who are coming, serving for some time, trained, do the operational duty, and then get back to the other life. This was the basic thing. Somehow or other, the things have started working well. But for some reason, there are differences of opinions on this issue. Let me assure you, if you speak to a person who is Agniveer today and who has joined us 2 years back, ask him off the camera and he will be very happy to share with you. Unfortunately, there's a color being given to this. Agniveer is the term which has been given to any young boy, any young lady, any young officer who joins. That is the point. Secondly, they will serve for some time. Maybe earlier it used to be 8 years and 7 years. Now they will be serving for 5 years, maybe extended to another 8 years, and then they'll go. But when they are going out, they are not being thrown out. They are going out with due respect, with reasonable financial aid, with reasonable commitment to them. And so therefore, to think the scheme is not a good thing, I think I would request some experts to reconsider what they are saying.
Okay, General Dayal.
The other point on this subject.
The Prime Minister got very emotional today, saying that this is not about pensions, and if 30 years later pensions will come down, do you think I'll take this kind of political flack in this moment because of something that may happen when I'm 105 years old? He's made quite clear he intends to pursue this scheme, that there is no backtracking. There may be some modifications, but there's no backtracking. You've been one of the vocal opponents of the Agniveer scheme. Now that the Prime Minister has doubled down, how do you look at it, given that you were actually pushing for the scheme to be scrapped?
Yeah, Rahul, I've been talking of it that this scheme should be scrapped completely. And like I say, I wouldn't like to drag in the Prime Minister, because ultimately some advisors down the up, a lot of people have advised, and I think he's defending his government, he's defending his decision. Good, I never said. Some people faltered on Eastern Ladakh situation when we were going through COVID, and heads off the Prime Minister that he could take that thing and say that what he said on the everywhere, that nobody has entered, because that's the courage you require to be in a Prime Minister. So let's keep the Prime Minister out of it. Let's keep the politics out of it, please. Otherwise, this will go waste. Secondly, Rahul, to a policeman in UP, Haryana, Delhi, requires minimum 9 months of training to be a policeman. We are saying within 6 months, you want a soldier who should be immediately after 6 months, if the war breaks out when they are passing out, or 5 months when they've completed and they are taken there, you mean to say you've broken him? See, did anybody carry out why 6 months? Why were we carrying out 9 months training? Rahul, there is a training and transformation period. You are transforming a young boy from a rural India into a fighting soldier who has passion, who becomes a daredevil, and who becomes obedient, completely obedient. So it is a process which has been researched for 9 months, right? It is not BSF, CRP, everybody is doing that. You bring the army, this thing to first major fault. And then Rahul, secondly, the first 4 years of embedding into the army, regimentation, that namak naam, namak nishan which we talk, that getting into that mold of a soldier, and then he becomes an excellent soldier. Under 4 years, within ourselves, you don't take people into RR. You don't, the basic QR is minimum 4 years service. You don't take in NSC, minimum QR 4 years. No brigade headquarter takes a boy minimum. So this 4-year scheme is flawed with far too many issues, and slowly it will degrade your defense potential. I am very
How will it degrade?
I tell you,
it happens in the United States as well. It happens in Israel.
It is. I'll tell you. People are confusing. Some people are trying to correlate it with short service. Some people are trying to say conscription of the US. Those are forced scheme on the citizens, because there are no citizens to join the army. There are no citizens to do other job. This is a voluntary scheme. Voluntary. We have voluntary army. We have huge youth available to you. And how it degrades it slowly, that in first 4 years, when in 6 months I told you the training, now by the time he comes into that stage, in 2.5 years, you start looking at whether you are really fit out of the 4, you are the 1, or you are out of the 3. So when that feeling comes in, believe you me, that potential goes down. Slowly what will happen? It was a stable opportunity for a rural youth to be in the army. When it was giving him stability, it was giving him izzat man in the village.
General Shetkar, it creates too much uncertainty. After 2.5 years, General Dayal argues that you're suddenly wondering and worried about what happens to me. Will I get to stay on in the army? Will I be sent back to the village? Will I get absorbed? You lose the ability to go out and potentially give your life up, because the argument is that you're plagued by all this uncertainty. It also creates a lot of space for discretion. If, one person stays, the others have to go back home. How do you pick who stays, who goes? That this will create space for discretion. It will lead to bias. It could lead to corruption and all kinds of things, all of which together could potentially degrade the fighting capability of the Indian Army.
No, Mr. Rahul, I don't think so. With all my respect for those who are expressing the well, that is okay. The point is, after 2 years, of course we take about 1 year and 1.5 years for a young boy to train him, to motivate him, and to convert him into soldier. There is no doubt about it. Same thing happens to the officers who have gone for a short service commission. Same thing happens to them. And thereafter, you start working with them. But I don't think after 2 years he's thinking, oh, mera kya hoga, what will happen to him? Nothing, I don't think so. These are all the imaginations against the scheme for some reason or other. And unfortunately, these are being given by those.
No, but how are these a figment of imagination? This is a real situation. One person stays, 3 people go. How they're almost all of the same caliber and quality. I grew up in an armed forces background. If you ask me to choose between 4 soldiers and say which one is substantially better than the others, in the way that they're trained, they're roughly of the same standard. It's very, very difficult to pick 1 out of 4. How do you do that? Won't it create heartburn for the other 3? Won't that have a dynamic of its own?
No. You see, if 1 stays and 3 goes out, that 1 is based on his performance, his capability, and the desirability of his continuing the things.
So, but most of the tasks in the army are team tasks.
This is the basic
at the level of a soldier, most of the tasking is a team, whether a road opening party or a quick response, whatever the tasking is, you're usually with a group of people. It's not like the Olympics where you can pick 1 from the 4 because one is running faster than the other 3. It's very easy to pick. Here they're doing things together. If he knows I stay, 3 go, or I don't stay, the other guy stays. You're in a jeep or a jonga with these people. Now suddenly, instead of the guy being a buddy of yours, you're looking at him wondering, okay, which of us stays, which of us goes. It creates those kind of dynamics.
These are all imagination, Mr. Rahul. You ask the person who has joined the army in last 2 years, ask him honestly, not on camera, and he will be happy to share his views. Let me assure you, I have done it. We have met some people. It is not that I am talking from the head, sitting in a room. No, it is not so.
General Dayal has a question for you. Yes,
sir.
An impression is being created.
Sir, war is not fought by young soldiers only. There are JCOs leading. Banna Singh led in Saichin, sir. War is fought by NCOs, sir. War is fought by up to brigadier, major general, in our army, up to a division commander level. Has your committee recommended how to bring their age down? Have we recommended that Jan Joshi was only a 10th class boy in NDA and let's go back to that NDA? We have the Subramaniam committee report targeted at the age of the commanding officer because to give him experience, they raised the age. And this was realized not only in Kargil, it was also realized, if I'm not mistaken, in Sri Lanka. So we wanted to bring that age, but we brought his experience low. So we have not addressed the issues which were required, and we have addressed the issue which was our strong strength. Our soldiers, to call them, they needed young age. Those who fought Galwan, Valley, sir, and those who fought Kargil Heights, they have sent a message to the world. Dare not trespass, you will be executed. They don't question their age, sir. No question. Please, if you want to bring the age, make a commander at 42. You should have recommended. Make a corps commander at 45. I wish Jan Huda had been made an army commander at 50. That is the issue, sir, not this issue that soldiers, and sir, they come from villages. When they come to know this is an unstable profession, they will stop, the cream will stop coming, the luster, the passion to go to army will die down.
Let General
The third grade will come to you.
That the best come because it gives them a lifetime of certainty, predictability. You're in the army, it's a job with some izzat. If it's just a 4-year job, you may not be able to attract the best talent. General Chitetkar.
No, again, same thing, Mr. Rahul. Who says that we are not attracting the young talent or the capable people? Have we done any survey of now? We are imagining the things on the things. And we are giving color as per our requirement or as per our understanding. I don't think, have we carried out anything with the recently, the soldiers who have gone out and asked them? I don't think so. I don't think so. These are all imaginations sitting in some room and we are discussing the thing.
Okay.
You ask these boys, after all, when the recruitment takes place, thousands and thousands and thousands of people are coming to join. They are not running away.
Okay.
They are not running away.
That's a fair point you make. It's not as if enthusiasm has gone down immediately. There's still enough people signing up. And I want to keep the army officers away from the politics, which is why I dealt with that initially. I just want to show you the results of the political stock exchange on the questions that we asked around the Agniveer scheme. So I'll take you through question number 1. Will the Agniveer scheme make our forces younger, leaner and more competent? Let's take a look at the responses. A total of 39% of the respondents told Yashwant's team that it will infuse new blood and energy into the Indian Armed Forces. Yes, it may improve the quality of the army, make it younger and leaner, say 15%. It may, right? So will is 39%, may is 15%, but no, it will make no material difference is 40%. So it's actually split. Now the interesting thing to me, if I dissect this data, is that it's almost split equally between those who think it will infuse new blood and energy and those who think it will make no difference. Let me come to the next question. Impact of the Agniveer scheme on the overall effectiveness of our armed forces. Positive impact, say 35%. Negative impact, say 42%. No impact, say 15%. Again, those who think it will have a negative impact, 7% more than those who think it will have a positive impact. So 42 plays 35 on the question of the overall effectiveness of the Agniveer scheme. Remember, we're not speaking here to those who are in the armed forces. These are just part of the tracker survey that Yashwant Deshmukh runs, and therefore these are general respondents, not specifically from the armed forces. Important for me to clarify that. Let me come to the next question. Is the opposition doing politics over the Agniveer scheme? 40% saying yes. 26% saying yes, but the concerns are also valid. 30% say no politics. But the big number there is 40% saying yes, the opposition is playing politics over the Agniveer scheme. Last question. Should the armed forces be kept out of politics? 68% of the respondents in this question say yes. Keep the armed forces out of politics. 26% say no. I want to go across to Yashwant Deshmukh on the set of questions that I ran. What stands out to me is that it's quite confusing because it's so technical, it's so specific. Like those like General Dayal, General Kshetetkar have very specific views because they've spent a life inside the army. Outside the army, you're kind of seeing what Rahul Gandhi is saying, you're seeing what the Prime Minister is saying, you're seeing the politics, but you're unsure. And that really comes out in the numbers, 39 versus 40. Will it make a difference? No, will it not make a difference? So how are you interpreting this data, Yashwant?
The way I look at the data, Rahul, is that the fact that Army has been in our trustworthiness index, the topmost trusted institution in India for the last 30 years, at least ever since I have been doing polling. So that is one area where people do not want politics to enter. People do not understand, as you rightly said, all the nitty-gritties, the technicalities of it. But what they see through it is that, okay, if there is something which everybody is making noise, maybe people should be sitting together and iron out what is to be done. What they definitely do not want, number one, politics to be played around with the things which are related to army and the defense, number one. What they want to ensure that nothing is left unturned as far as our support to army is concerned. And number three, most importantly, Rahul, people are looking at the things not with the binary of just opposing or supporting a scheme or opposing or supporting the government. They are looking at the things where they wish people to sit around, talk it out and, improve the scheme. They do not want to negate the scheme. That's a big difference. There is a question which probably you will pick it up at some point of time. But that question, majority of the people are basically saying that you need to improve it, make it better and continue with the scheme rather than dumping it off.
The message Ghanshyam Tiwari to the opposition is keep the armed forces out of politics. It was interesting to see how both the generals with very opposing views said they didn't want to say anything about the Prime Minister. They keep the Prime Minister aside. Let's look at the issue. 68% of the respondents telling the Indian opposition keep the armed forces out of politics, and you're just bringing the armed forces into the mud pit of Indian politics now.
Good evening, Rahul, to you, my esteemed co-panelists, as well as the viewers. There are three things. One is very personal. If my father had joined the Air Force, he joined as an airman, today he would be in Agniveer. In the last 1 year, 20 Agniveers have died, 18 from Army, at least one from Air Force by suicide. There is Amritpal Singh died by suicide. Shrikant Chaudhary died by suicide. Then we have the martyrdom of Ajay Kumar. We have the martyrdom of Kavante Akshay. And then we have the shattering story of Ishmeet Singh, who left Agniveer and went on to steal a car and became a part of car racket. This is the spectrum. You are sending people with no prospect of future. I will not be sitting here if my father was
No, but somebody from the IIT or IIM could pick up a gun and kill someone. It doesn't mean that what's happening at IIT, IIM is wrong, right? That's a bit of an absurd argument. If somebody turns into a dacoit or a car thief, really, that's no argument. Anything can happen. I mean, that one-off, if it's happening as a trend, you must join the dots, and then, of course, it's a big problem. But Ghanshyam Tiwari, surely you're smarter than to say because one guy became a dacoit that all Agniveers are dacoits. I mean, that's not how it happens.
I did not say that. It's your choice to interpret. I'm not representing the data. You are presenting data, right? Let's play data then. 2 out of these 20 are suicides. At least 2 out of these 20. So this is a disastrous scheme. I can say that if my father was an Agniveer today, I would not be having the future I had. You are robbing the future of Indian youth just because you cannot give certainty of jobs to anybody. And who is benefiting from this? This entire scheme, there is everything that you asked the Honorable General. He said you are imagining. He did not provide a policy documentation that this is why we chose 6 months, this is why we chose 4 months, 4 years, this is why we chose 25%, this is why we chose X amount of ex gratia amount. None of this is founded on data and research. This is founded on wisdom that is not tested by armed forces. If you ask a person that how's the election results going to be in America, you ask a poll survey here, nobody knows, because unless you are exposed to the armed forces.
Okay, now Sanju Verma, there are 2 or 3 things which are very clear. That in the families which send young boys to the army, there is concern that after 4 years, 3 of them will come back. They may or may not get employed in the paramilitary forces. That's creating insecurity. You heard General Dayal explain how in team situations, how much can you rely on the other person when there is a competition amongst the 4 that 1 will stay, 3 will not go, because the army functions as a unit, you function as a team. You can't have a situation where one person is looking out for himself because his career is on the line. It's not a career in the way that corporate careers are, and you've been part of that chain. The Prime Minister has chosen to double down. Far from backing out, he's chosen to double down. What are you making of the concerns which are being raised and the fact that this could prove politically expensive for the BJP?
Rahul, first and foremost, I have heard everybody very, very patiently, and I need my time.
Absolutely.
Because, of late I see a trend that the moment BJP starts speaking, people start getting rattled and start getting restless. So now that the disclaimer is out there, let me make a few points. And I'm going to completely, with authentic data, negate the Modi naysayers on the Agniveer scheme. Point number 1, let me say this categorically for the benefit of your audience. Agniveer scheme is one of the most transformative reforms within the defense sector. Point number 2, be it the Kargil War Commission, the Kargil Review Committee, be it Arun Singh, who was the MOS Defense when Rajiv Gandhi was the Prime Minister, or be it the 6th Pay Commission recommendations, which came out not when the BJP was in power, but when the Congress was in power. All these committees, or even Arun Singh for that matter, and Rajiv Gandhi for that matter, they said that a scheme on the lines of Agnipath is what is needed to ensure that young blood is infused into the armed forces without compromising on the integrity of India's defense apparatus. Point number 3, let me tell people who are saying, 6 months की training के बाद आप बोलते हो किसी को कि जंग के मैदान में कूद जाइए. So some of your experts, and again with offense to none, need to know this. And this I'm quoting from an article of India Today about 5 months back. 21 out of 27 European Union nations, the minimum period in a short service commission is 4 months and the maximum is 26 months. Denmark 4 months, Cyprus 26 months in the short service commission, and you are assumed to be absolutely well trained to take on the enemy on the battleground. Austria, Cyprus, Estonia, Germany, Finland, Greece, Denmark, Norway. The short service commission period is barely 14 to 16 months.
But ma'am, this is not short. But ma'am,
can I finish?
No, 1 second. I must just explain. You're explaining for short service commission, that's like comparing apples and oranges, because these are not short service commission people.
Can I finish?
Yes, go on.
Can I finish please.
Go on, go on.
Rahul, I don't understand. Ghanshyam gave a long monologue. You basically agree with everything that Ghanshyam is saying.
No, I don't agree with anything that anyone is saying.
So
But go on.
please let me finish.
Go on.
You have a bad habit of breaking my chain of thought. Either you call the BJP and respect what we have to say, or don't call us.
Okay.
Let me finish now. Yes, thank you. My limited point is this. Those experts who have a problem with 6-month training, those experts who have a problem saying कि 6 महीने के बाद जंग के मैदान पर आप इन लोगों को कैसे भेज रहे हो, they do not have a problem with ultra short service commissions in European nations. The most important point is this. Don't compare apples with oranges. I take your point. Don't compare apples with watermelons also. But why don't you agree to the basic fact? Agniveer's Agnipath scheme is a voluntary scheme. Nobody is putting a gun to the head of XYZ saying कि भाई आपको Agnipath scheme में recruitment लेनी ही पड़ेगी. And wait. You called me. Let me make my last and final point. The most important point is this. I say, just in 4 years, including 6 months of world-class training in one of the world's most respected institutions, you get to learn things like the positivity of being chivalrous, having valor, laying down life in the line of duty, interpersonal skills, leadership skills, team spirit. आपको, if you're a 17.5-year-old or 21-year-old, आपको world class training 4 सालों में कहाँ मिलेगी? And this is not about employment. Agniveer is about improving your skill sets and employability. और लोग कहते हैं 22-23 साल के बाद ये बंदा कहाँ जाएगा? यदि 22 और 23 साल की उम्र में आप रिस्क नहीं लोगे, तो क्या 36 और 46 साल की
Okay, so you've had an opportunity to make your point. General Dayal wants to come in and explain why it's not okay to compare those European armies and short service commission with the challenges that the Indian army confronts. General Dayal.
We had a short service commission, Rahul. We never complained. We never complained because the terms and condition when they joined, except that at 5 years, either the army found you good enough to keep you or you voluntarily came out. But every term and condition was same, mind you. And that was an officer thing, 9 months training thing. I come back to saying, let's not compare ourselves with countries who have no borders, who had no threat for 70 years. They were involved in different type of research and human values, different. They are different nations, they have no threat. Moment they have a threat now, reaching only Ukrainian border. Look at the way look at the way how they are going about in last 3 months. Please carry out a study. They don't know from where to muster. They did not have population. They did not have a threat. They were under NATO umbrella. So please, let's not compare. Second issue, Rahul, give me 1 minute, please. All those who are talking that, look, this scheme is reducing the age. Please ask them, has the JCO, he fights. Has the NCO, he fights. They are just making now grounds to ensure that this scheme continues.
Let me go across to General Huda. General Huda, the opposition says this is to try and reduce the pension bill of the army, which is why the scheme's been brought in. The Prime Minister doubling down very strongly, saying this is to keep the army continuously fit for war. How do you see this debate? Which side of the equation do you come out on, General Huda?
Yeah, I agree. It is. I mean, I think they've said that in no uncertain terms that one of the objectives of the Agniveer scheme is to have a younger profile of the army, and with Agniveer's coming in, certainly over a period of time, the age profile of the army will go down.
The Prime Minister said that the army had been asking for a scheme like the Agniveer scheme for years. Mallikarjun Kharge, the Congress president, is quoting former Army Chief General Naravne to say that the Agniveer scheme came as a shock for the army. It came as a bolt out of the blue. He's quoted as saying, since you were a part of the army for so long, what was really the thinking around the need for a scheme of this nature?
See, I don't know, because, when this whole Agniveer scheme was discussed, by then I had already retired. But yes, from what we know, the memorials of the previous chief, he has mentioned that, he had initially gone with the proposal of 25%, temporary induction, that 75% should be regular. But when the scheme was rolled out, it was just the reverse, where it was 75% were Agniveer and 25% would be regular. So I'm just going by, I mean, he was the chief at that time and he said this, that it was a bit of a surprise for them. So,
General Shitetkar, I want you to come in on this, that General Naravne, the then chief on whose watch the scheme came, A, said it came as a bolt out of the blue, they weren't expecting it. B, what they were looking at was that 75% of the soldiers will stay, 1 out of 4 will be sent back home. That the scheme in the way that it was brought was very different from what the army had been thinking about. General Shitetkar.
I have worked with him and he has worked with me and we all have worked together. There is a lot of misinformation being spread about this entire total Agniveer and Agnipath. People who are never been anywhere close to the armed forces are casting their expression. We heard the people. There is absolutely nothing wrong. If the scheme is so bad, why do you find where the recruiting takes place, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people?
So it could also be out of compulsion. They have no better optionality. But you aren't answering my question, sir. My question was that the army chief says that 3 out of 4 were to stay, 1 was to go. The actual scheme that came out was quite different. How do you respond to that?
No. These were the expectations that time. That 1 will go and 3 will stay. I doubt very much. I would request reconsideration on this particular statement. I would request. It's up to them. I am not casting any expression. But a lot of misinformation has been done.
Okay.
Misinformation has been
Sanju
given.
Verma, you want to respond to what Mallikarjun Kharge said? He says that the Prime Minister, he claims, is lying. He's quoting General Naravne, saying it came as a bolt out of the blue, that we were planning to keep 3 out of 4, not 1 out of 4, and this is not what we were expecting.
You know, Rahul, Mallikarjun Kharge is obviously suffering from selective amnesia. He's chosen to twist, our former Army Chief M.M. Naravne's statement. But I've also tweeted in response to what Mr. Kharge said. If you are giving the example of Mr. Naravne, whether he said that or not is a different matter altogether, then I can tell you that ex-Army Chief Manoj Pandey, ex-Navy Chief, Mr. R. Hari Kumar, ex-Air Force Chief, Mr. R.K.S. Bhadoria, ex-Air Force Chief, Arup Raha, CDS, when he was there, he had actually suggested that in the public domain, Mr. Bipin Rawat, who's unfortunately no more with us, current CDS Anil Chauhan, current Army Chief Upendra Dwivedi, they've all spoken in favor of Agniveer. Point number 1. Point number 2, the most important one, which your audience needs to know. ये बार-बार कहा जाता है, this is to curtail pension costs. I did some homework before coming to your show, just in 20 seconds. The current annual pension outlay and pension cost on account of defense forces to the public exchequer, the government of India, is 1.41 lakh crore. This is excluding the 1.25 lakh crore that has been given till date on account of OROP, which Indira Gandhi removed way back in 1973. और आज ये हमको army की और security पर भाषण देते हैं. And my last point is this: what is the budget outlay for defense in the budget that was announced by Nirmala Sitharaman on Tuesday? Tell me the figure, Rahul. You understand data like many don't. It was 6.21 lakh crore. That is 12.9% of India's budgetary outlay.
Okay, you make that point. Ghanshyam Tiwari, Sanju Verma makes one point that the opposition is citing one former army chief. There are so many, including chiefs of defense staff, chiefs of the other armed forces, who all come out and actually supported the Agniveer scheme.
So on May 23, 2024, a headline that media printed is Army conducts own survey on scheme for Agniveers, may recommend tweaks. This is Indian Army talking to Agniveers, talking to battalions, talking to unit commanders. We have a government, right from demonetization to Agniveer, who will not put on record in a transparent manner, in a democracy, who are its advisors. Why can't the defense minister or the prime minister say that here is the set of people who advised us, here's the report, here was the research done? Because there is none. Because you want to have the autonomy for autocracy, that you want to take decisions without taking the accountability.
Okay, so I'm out of time on this conversation. This debate will go on.
Threats are increasing. Our threats are increasing, Rahul. We need an army which is stable. The world is unstable, Rahul. India may have to provide stability to the world. We need an army which does not require these schemes.
All our guests have spoken. This is now highly contentious, so I don't want to take a side. You've heard different perspectives. We leave it to our viewer to decide whose argument they believe has the maximum merit. I want to thank my guests for joining us on this broadcast.